The Sicilian Defense, the Caro-Kann, and the Italian game are some of the most solid openings in chess, but one small mistake can turn the entire game. In this video, you'll learn 30 dangerous traps from these openings that can punish your opponent instantly. And as usual, we're moving beyond basic memorization to look at the why, the weak squares, and tactical themes that you need to spot in the first 10 moves. And I'm not just throwing moves at you. For every single trap, I've included a stat card analyzing its frequency, damage, risk, and the specific ELO range it works best in. The first trap is the Sveshnikov trap. Frequency 65, damage 93, risk low, ELO range below 1300. So it starts with e4, c5, knight to f3, knight to c6. We play d4. They take it with the c-pawn and we recapture it with the knight. They develop the other knight and we develop ours. If they push a 5, we move the knight to b5. If they play some passive move like d6, we immediately jump the other knight to d5. They have to trade unless they will have a fork. So we take back with the pawn, they retreat to e7 and we play c4. And in this position, there is a huge temptation for black. They see the knight on b5 and think they can just kick it away with a 6. This is the fatal mistake. We punish this immediately with queen to a 4, pinning the pawn. Now, there are a couple of options for black. Option 1. If they try to break the pin and develop with bishop to d7, we play knight takes d6, checkmate, the classic smothered mate. Option 2. If they try to give the king some breathing room with g6, it is too late. Knight takes d6 is still checkmate. The best move option, black has to realize they messed up. The only way to survive is to give up the rook. They must play a xb5. We take their rook with our queen, and we are up a full piece with a winning position. The second trap is the dragon trap. Frequency 50, damage 85, risk low, ELO range below 1100. So it starts with e4, c5, knight to f3, d6. We play d4, they take with the c-pawn, and we recapture with the knight. They bring out the knight to f6, we defend with knight to c3, and they play g6, setting up the king's Indian defense. We develop our bishop to e3, and in this position, black sometimes gets too aggressive. They see the bishop and think they can hunt it down immediately with knight to g4, and this is a fatal mistake. We punish this immediately with bishop to b5, check. Now, there are a couple of options for black to save their king. Option 1. If they block with the bishop to d7, we simply play queen takes g4. We are up a clean piece because their bishop is occupied blocking the check, and our bishop is defended by the two knights. Option 2. If they block with their other knight to d7, it's the same story. We play queen takes g4, banking the free piece. The best move option, if they try to complicate things and block with knight to c6. We take the knight with our knight. They take back with the pawn. Then we take that pawn with the bishop. Check. Now we have won a pawn. We are attacking their rook in the corner, and their knight on g4 is still hanging. It is completely winning for white. The third trap is the Levenfish trap. Frequency 70. Damage 98. Risk medium. ELO range below 1500. So it starts with e4, c5, knight to f3, d6. We play d4, they take, we recapture with the knight. They play knight f6 attacking the pawn, we defend with knight c3 if they play g6. Instead of the normal bishop move, we play the aggressive f4, the Levenfish attack. If they play bishop to g7, which is a slight inaccuracy, we immediately punish this by pushing e5, attacking the knight. They take with the pawn, and we take back with the f-pawn. And in this position, they will feel the pressure. They see their knight is attacked, and usually make the fatal mistake of jumping to g4, trying to counterattack. We punish this instantly with bishop to b5. Check! Now, there are a couple of options for black. Option 1. If they block with the bishop or the knight, we simply play queen takes g4. Because their piece is pinned, we just win a clean piece for free. Option 2. If they realize blocking loses a piece, they might try to be clever and move the king to f8 to keep the game going. But this is actually game over. We play the brilliant move knight to a6. Check. It is a discovery on their queen. If they take our knight with their pawn, we takes the queen. And if they take our knight with their bishop, it is instant checkmate with queen takes d8. The fourth trap is the Sicilian clearance trap. Frequency 75, damage 91, risk medium, elo range below 1600. So it starts with e4, c5, knight f3, knight c6. We play d4, take, take. They play knight f6. We defend with knight c3. They play g6. Here we deviate from the main lines. We trade knights on c6 and then immediately push e5, attacking their knight. They will try to be active and jump their knight to the center. This is the fatal mistake. We take the knight, they take back with the pawn. We capture that free pawn with our queen, and now we are threatening their rook in the corner. They are forced to save the rook by moving it. And now, we unleash the brilliant move e6. This is a clearance sacrifice. We are giving up the pawn to clear the critical f5 square for our queen. Now, there are a couple of options for black. Option 1. If they think they can ignore the pawn and develop with bishop to b7, we play pawn takes pawn, and it's a beautiful checkmate. The best move option, if they take the pawn with either the d-pawn or the f-pawn, the e5 square is now open. We play queen to e5, and we fork the two rooks. We pick up one of the rooks in the corner, and the game is effectively over. The fifth trap is the sneaky queen trap. Frequency 30, damage 80, risk medium, elo range below 1700. So it starts with e4, c5, knight f3, knight c6. They play d4, we take, they recapture. We play knight to f6, they defend, and we prepare fianchetto with g6. They set up the Yugoslav attack with bishop e3. We fianchetto the bishop they play. f3, we castle, and they develop the bishop. Now, instead of normal development, we play the sneaky move queen to b6. This looks dangerous because we are putting our queen on the same diagonal as their bishop, but it sets a deadly trap. They often see our queen exposed and try to attack immediately. And as usual, there's a couple of white responses here. Option 1. If they think they can trade knights with knight takes c6, this is a blunder. We don't take back. We play queen takes a3, check. We pick up their bishop for free, force a queen trade, and we end up a full piece ahead. The best move option, if they try to attack our queen and bishop at the same time with knight to f5, it looks scary, but we ignore it. We play queen takes b2, attacking their rook in the corner. If they try to save face by taking our bishop with the knight, we play queen takes c3, check. They block with the bishop, and we take their other bishop on c4. We have one apiece, and their position is completely destroyed. The sixth trap is the Najdorf sacrifice. Frequency 50, damage 95, risk low, elo range below 900. So it starts with e4, c5, knight f3, d6. We play d4, the open Sicilian. They take the pawn, we take it back with the knight. They develop their knight, and we develop ours. They play a 6, the Najdorf. We play the aggressive bishop to g5. They play a 6, we play a 4. They develop with knight to d7, and we bring the bishop to c4. And in this position, black often tries to expand rapidly with b5. This is the mistake we are waiting for. We play the perfect sacrifice. Bishop takes a 6. They usually take back with the pawn. Then we jump our knight to a 6, attacking their queen. If they move the queen to a 7, we immediately jump the other knight to d5, attacking the queen again. If they panic and take our knight with queen takes a 6, we play knight c7, check. It is a royal fork, and we win their queen. The seventh trap is the Alapin queen trap. Frequency 40, damage 95, risk low, elo range below 800. So it starts with e4, c5. Instead of the open games, we play the Alapin with c3. They strike in the center with d5. We push e5, gaining space. They bring the bishop to f5, and we build our center with d4. They take, we take back. And here, black often tries a tactical trick. They take our knight to make us move the rook. We take back with the rook. Then they check us with queen to a5. We block with the bishop to d2, and in this position they see the I2 pawn is unguarded. They get greedy and make the fatal mistake of taking it. Queen takes a 2. This looks like they won a pawn, but they just lost the game. We play the quiet killer move, bishop to c3. The queen is literally trapped inside our camp. The rook on b1 covers b-files and the bishop covers the escape. The only option. There is literally nothing they can do. To save the queen, they must sacrifice it. They play some random move, we hunt the queen with the rook, and we exchange. We are up a queen for a rook, and it is an easy win. The 8th trap is the Smith-Morra trap. Frequency, 85. Damage, 80. Risk, medium. Elo range, below 1500. So it starts with e4, c5. We play d4, the Smith-Morra gambit. They take the pawn, and we offer another one with c3. They take, and we recapture with the knight. We develop rapidly. Knight f3, d6, and bishop to c4. And here, black often plays on autopilot. They see our knight on f3 and decide to pin it immediately with bishop to g4. This is a classic blunder in the Morra. We punish this instantly with the sacrifice. Bishop takes f7, check. They almost always take the bishop with the king. Then we play knight to g5. Check. We fork their king and their bishop. The king is forced to retreat, usually to e8. Then we play queen takes g4. We have won our piece back. Their king can never castle, and our attack is just getting started. It is a dream position for white. The 9th trap is the Sozin queen trap. Frequency 65. Damage 98. Risk low. Elo range below 1600. So it starts with e4, c5, knight f3, d6. We play d4, take. They play knight f6, we defend with knight c3. They play knight c6. Here, we play the aggressive bishop to c4, the Sozin attack. And in this position, if you are facing a dragon player, they will almost always play g6. This looks normal, but it is a fatal mistake because they haven't castled yet. We punish this immediately by trading knights. Knight takes c6. They take back with the pawn. And then we push e5, attacking the knight. They usually think we just blundered a pawn. They will take it with the pawn. And this ends the game immediately. We play bishop takes f7, check. The king is forced to take the bishop. This deflection leaves their queen completely unprotected on the d-file. We play queen takes queen, and the game is technically over on move 10. The 10th and final trap is the Alapin fork. Frequency, 80. Damage, 87. Risk, low. Elo range, below 1400. So, it starts with e4, c5, knight f3, d6. We play c3, setting up the Alapin. They play knight f6, attacking our e4 pawn. Instead of defending it with d3 or the queen, we play the tricky move bishop to e2. They look at the e4 pawn and think they just forgot to defend it. They get greedy and play knight takes e4. This is the fatal mistake. We punish this instantly with queen to a4, check. It is a classic double attack. We hit the king and the loose knight on a 4 at the same time. They have to block the check. Once they block, we simply take the knight. We have won a full piece for absolutely nothing. And now for the Caro-Kann traps. The first trap is the Goldman trap. Frequency, 65. Damage, 100. Risk, high. Elo range, below 1300. This trap comes from a tricky sideline called the Goldman variation. Number of players fallen into this trap, 1,100. We start with e4, c6, and we develop the knight to f3. They play d5. We take the pawn, and they recapture. Now, instead of playing d4 like everyone else, we play the aggressive horsey to e5. Black challenges our knight with their knight. We support it with d4. Black often decides to simplify the position and takes our knight. Here, we take back with the pawn. Now, black develops their bishop to f5, controlling the diagonal. This looks perfectly sensible, but they have just gotten closer to a forced mate sequence. We play queen to f3. We are attacking the bishop on f5. Black naturally defends everything with e6, thinking they are solid. But this is a game-losing blunder. Boom! Bishop to b5 check. The king can't go to d8 because our bishop covers that diagonal, and they can't block with the knight because it's gone. They are forced to move the king to a 7. We follow up immediately with queen to a 3 check. They have only one legal move to stop the check, which is to block with the queen on d6. We simply take the queen takes d6, and that is checkmate. The second trap is the fantasy trap. Frequency, 74, damage 90, risk, high. ELO range below 1600. This trap arises from the sharp and aggressive fantasy variation. Number of players fallen into this trap, 3,500. We start with e4, c6, d4, d5, and here we play the sharp f3 supporting the center. Black takes the pawn on e4, and we recapture with the f-pawn. Now, black strikes back immediately with e5. A lot of players get tempted to take this pawn, but don't fall for it. Instead, we develop the knight to f3. Black takes our pawn on d4. We ignore it. We develop the bishop to c4, aiming directly at the weak f7 square. They bring their knight to f6, and we castle short to get our king safe. Black tries to develop actively by bringing their bishop to c5. Now we go on the attack. We jump our knight to g5, piling pressure on f7. Black castles, thinking they have solved all their problems, but they just walked into a tactical nightmare. Boom! Knight takes f7. They are forced to capture with the rook. We immediately follow up by taking the rook with our bishop, delivering a check. The king has to take our bishop. Now comes the sting. Queen to h5 check. This is a beautiful double attack. We check the king, but we are also staring right at that loose bishop on c5. The king retreats to g8, and we simply play queen takes c5. At the end of the chaos, we have won a rook in exchange for a knight. We have a safer king and a dominating position. The third trap is the exchange trap. Frequency, 82. Damage, 95. Risk, medium. ELO range, below 1400. This trap happens in the very common exchange variation where we punish black for being a little too aggressive with their bishop. Number of players fallen into this trap, 8,300. We start with e4, c6, d4, d5. We take the pawn, and they recapture it. We develop our knight to f3, and they bring their knight to c6. We play the solid move c3. Here, black tries to be active and pins our knight with bishop to g4. We respond by pinning their knight with bishop to b5. Black plays a 6 to support the center and make a way for their bishop later. Here we play the annoying move queen to a4, putting immediate pressure on their pinned knight. Black naturally tries to defend everything with queen to c7, protecting the knight and unpinning themselves. But this is a blunder. Boom! We play knight to a5. We are attacking their bishop on g4, but more importantly, we are piling up on the knight. Black sees their bishop is under attack, so they retreat it to f5. Now we cash in. We take their knight with ours, they capture back with the pawn. We follow up with bishop takes the pawn, but this time with a check. The king is forced to move to e7. And now we simply snag the rook in the corner with our. We are up a full rook, and black's position is completely ruined. The fourth trap is the two knights trap. Frequency, 84. Damage, 87. Risk, low. ELO range, below 1200. Number of players fallen into this trap, 10,000. We start with e4, c6. We develop the knight to f3. They play d5. And here we play nc3, the two knights variation. Black takes our e4 pawn, and we recapture it with our knight. A very common response for black here is bringing their bishop to c5, attacking our knight. We respond by kicking the bishop back with knight to g3, forcing it to go back if he went back to g6, hoping he can remain at the good diagonal. We play h4, threatening to trap their bishop. Black usually makes a room for the bishop with h6. Now, the trap begins with knight to a5, aggressively eyeing the weak f7 square and the bishop. Here, many players instinctively retreat the bishop to h7 to keep it on the long diagonal. This is a critical mistake that has been played over 262,000 times according to the Licious database. We immediately launch the attack with queen to h5, threatening checkmate on f7. Black's only good way to stop it is g6. We ignore the threat on the queen, and we reload the threat with bishop to c4, again eyeing mate on f7. Black is forced to play e6 to block the bishop. Now for the incredibly tricky move, queen to e2. It looks like we are just tucking the queen away, but we are preparing a massive sacrifice. In this position, if black plays a natural developing move like bishop to g7, Boom! We hit them with knight takes f7, sacrificing the knight. Black has to take the knight with the king, or he will lose one of his pieces. So, we follow up with taking the pawn with our queen, forcing the king to its only legal square f8, and we finish the game with queen to f7 checkmate. The fifth trap is the Karpov trap. Frequency, 85. Damage, 99. Risk, medium. Elo range, below 1500. This is one of the most beautiful traps in the entire Caro-Kann, which more than 11,000 players fall into. We start with e4, c6, d4, d5. We play knight to c3. Black takes on e4 and we recapture with the knight. Here, Black plays the solid knight to d7, known as the Karpov variation. We play the aggressive knight to g5, eyeing for the weak f7 square. Black usually plays h6, thinking they are simply kicking our knight away, but they have just blundered the game immediately. Boom! We slam the knight into a 6. This knight is untouchable because the f-pawn is pinned to the king by our queen's diagonal. They have two options here. Option 1. The main trap. If they blindly take the knight with the f-pawn, it is mate in 2. We play queen to h5 check. They are forced to block with g6, and we finish them with queen takes gi6 checkmate. Option 2. The long option. If they are smart and see the mate, they might try to save themselves with queen to a 5 check. We simply block with bishop to d2. They move the queen to b6 to attack our b-pawn. We ignore the pawns and develop with bishop to d3. If they get greedy and start munching pawns with queen takes b2, we chase them with rook to b1. They take the other pawn, but now comes the punishment. We play knight to c7 check. The king is forced to d8, and we gobble up the rook in the corner with the knight. We are up a full rook and completely winning. The sixth trap is the queen sacrifice. Frequency, 85. Damage, 97. Risk, medium. Elo range, below 1600. We are moving up the ladder to a trap in the advanced variation. This trap also got 11,000 players fallen into. We start with e4, c6, d4, d5, and we push the pawn to e5, the advanced variation. Black challenges the center immediately with c5. We solidify our center with c3. Black develops the knight to c6, and we bring our knight to f3. Here, Black usually pins our knight by playing bishop to g4. This pin is annoying, but we are going to use it against them. We play d takes c5. This looks like a simple trade, but it baits Black into a massive blunder. Black sees that our knight on f3 is pinned to the queen, so they think, free pawn and putting more pressure? So they take our bait. They think they are safe because our knight can't move. Or so they think. Boom! We ignore the pin completely and play knight takes a 5. We are hanging our queen. Black will snap it up instantly with the bishop. Now the punishment begins. We play bishop to b5 check. Black is in big trouble. The only way to stop the check is to sacrifice their own queen, so they are forced to play queen to d7. We take the queen with the bishop, delivering another check. The king has to move to d8. Finally, we calmly take their bishop without king. At this point, the game is over. Not only have we won 2 minor pieces for free, but look at the board. There is no way for him to save his rook. We are threatening to jump our knight to f7 with check, which forks the king and the rook on h8. Even if he tries to run, that rook is doomed. The 7th trap is the center bait trap. Frequency, 88. Damage, 50. Risk, low. Elo range, below 1800. This one, white only, wins a pawn, but it is common, and gives you a fantastic advantage right out of the opening. Number of players fallen into this trap, 19,000. We start with e4, c6, knight to f3, d5, and knight to c3. This is the 2 knights attack again. Black frequently plays bishop to g4, pinning our knight. We simply break the pin with bishop to a 2. Now here's the mistake. Black sees our knight on c3 and thinks they can kick it away and gain space, so they push d4. They think our knight has to move, but we have a tactical surprise. Boom! We play knight takes d4. We just took the pawn for free. They cannot take our knight with their queen, because then we will take their bishop. So naturally, they trade bishops first with bishop takes a 2. But we don't take back with the queen. We take back with the knight. Now look at the board. We are up a clean, healthy center pawn. We have zero weaknesses, and our position is rock solid. It's not a checkmate, but at a high level, being up a center pawn for free on move 6 is basically a winning game. The 8th trap is the Panov trap. Frequency, 93. Damage, 97. Risk, low. Elo range, below 1500. This trap happens in the aggressive, accelerated Panov attack. Number of players fallen into this trap, more than 86,000. We start with e4, c6, but instead of playing d4 immediately, we play c4. This is the accelerated Panov. Black strikes back in the center with d5. We take the pawn, they recapture it. Now we play d4. Black develops their knight to c6, putting pressure on the center. We take their pawn on d5 and they take back with the queen. Then we develop our knight to f3. Here, as you guys guessed, Black tries to be annoying by pinning our knight with bishop to g4. We calmly unpin by bringing our bishop to e2. Now, Black thinks they have found a clever tactic to win a pawn. They play bishop takes f3, removing our defender. We recapture with bishop takes f3. They see the free pawn on d4 and think it's free for the taking because our queen is defended by the knight, but it's a huge blunder. Boom! We hit them with bishop takes c6 check. And if you think, who will fall to this trap? Actually, there's a 3,000 rated player fall into this, although it was a bullet game, but it still counts. So we are removing the defender of the queen with check. They have absolutely no choice but to capture our bishop with their pawn, and now that the defender is gone, we simply pick up their queen. Game over. The 9th trap is the Royal Discovery. Frequency, 95. Damage, 96. Risk, medium. Elo range, below 1400. For this trap, we are going to use a sneaky gambit line that catches everyone off guard. Number of players fallen into this trap, more than 170,000. We start with e4, c6, and we develop the knight to f3. They strike in the center with d5. Instead of the usual main lines, we play a quiet-looking move, d3. Black sees a chance to win a pawn, so they usually take our pawn on a 4. But here is the twist. Instead of taking back, we jump our knight to g5, attacking the pawn but also setting a deep trap. They will likely continue capturing, taking our pawn on d3. We calmly recapture with the bishop. Now, Black plays the most natural developing move on the board, bringing their knight to f6. This looks completely safe, but it is actually a blunder that instantly loses the game. Boom! We strike with knight takes f7. We are forking the queen and the rook, so they are forced to take our knight with the king. Now for the finisher, we play bishop to ge6 check. This is a discovered attack. By checking the king, we force him to move or capture our bishop. It doesn't matter what they do, we simply take their queen, winning the queen and the game on the spot. The 10th trap and most common trap is the tall trap. Frequency, 99. Damage, 85. Risk, low. Elo range, below 1100. This trap happens in the advanced variation, and it is purely designed to punish lazy development. Number of players fallen into this trap, more than 509,000. We start with a4, c6, d4, d5, and we push to e5, the advanced variation. Black brings their bishop out to f5, which is the most common move. Now we play the aggressive h4. This is known as the tall variation. We are gaining space and threatening to harass that bishop immediately. Here's where the blunder happens. Black often plays e6, simply wanting to develop their other bishop, or they're playing too much London. We immediately pounce with g4, attacking the bishop. Here, Black might retreat it or go to e4, but it's the same result. Let's say they go to f4, we play f3, attacking it again. The bishop is forced back to g6, and now the final nail in the coffin, h5. The bishop is completely trapped. It has literally nowhere to run. Black is forced to sacrifice to gain at least a pawn. We simply capture back with the rook. And now let's jump into the Italian traps. The first trap is the classic Legal's Mate. Frequency 65, damage 99, risk medium, elo range below 1200. It starts with the Philidor defense, e4, e5, knight to f3, and then d6. We develop the bishop to c4. A very common response for Black here is bishop to g4, pinning the knight to the queen. We continue developing with knight to c3. Now, if black plays a passive move like g6 to develop their bishop, we have a tactical strike. We play knight takes a5. This leaves the queen undefended. If black fails to calculate and captures the queen with the bishop, the game is effectively over. We punish this greedy capture immediately with bishop takes f7. The king is forced to e7. We then deliver the final blow, knight to d5. Checkmate. Now let's step into trap number 2, the Blackburne-Shilling trap. Frequency: 85, damage 99, risk high, elo range below 1100. This trap starts with the standard Italian game. e4, e5, knight to f3, knight to c6, and bishop to c4. Here, black plays a deceptive move, knight to d4. This leaves the e5 pawn undefended. If white gets greedy and plays knight takes e5, they have fallen into the trap. We respond immediately with queen to g5. We are now attacking the knight and the g2 pawn. White often sees a chance to fork our queen and rook, so they play knight takes f7. We ignore the threat and capture the g2 pawn. Now, the white rook is in danger. White is forced to save their rook with rook to f1. We continue with queen takes e4 check. White cannot block with the queen or they lose it, so they must block with bishop to e2. And finally, we deliver the smothered mate with knight to f3. Trap number 3 is the dangerous fork. Frequency: 60, damage 92, risk low, elo range below 1400. This trap occurs in the main line of the two knights defense. We start with e4, e5, knight to f3, knight to c6, and bishop to c4. Black plays knight to f6. We respond by preparing a strong center with pawn to c3. Black develops their bishop to c5. Now, we strike immediately in the center with pawn to d4. Black usually retreats their bishop to b6. We continue by capturing the pawn with pawn takes e5. Here is where the trap happens. Black sees our pawn on e4 is undefended, so they play knight takes e4. This is a massive blunder. We punish them instantly with queen to d5. This move creates a double attack. We are threatening checkmate on f7, and we are also attacking the knight on e4. Black cannot defend both. Trap number 4 is the greedy rook grab. Frequency: 50, damage 99, risk high, elo range below 1000. This trap is played with black. It starts with e4, e5, knight to f3, knight to c6, and bishop to c4. Black plays the bait, knight to d4. White falls for it and plays knight takes a5. We attack with queen to g5. White forks us with knight takes ef7, and we capture the g2 pawn with our queen. And the difference between this and our previous trap: instead of trying to defend the rook, white gets greedy and grabs our corner rook with the knight. This is fatal. We capture their rook with check. White is forced to block with the bishop. We keep checking with queen takes a4. White blocks again with the bishop. Now we bring the knight in with a check. The king has only one legal square, king to f1. And we finish the game with queen to h1, checkmate. Trap number 5 is the Greco fork. Frequency: 45, damage 85, risk medium, elo range below 1500. This trap happens in the Giuoco piano main line. We start with e4, e5, knight to f3, knight to c6, and bishop to c4. Black plays bishop to c5. We prepare to take the center with pawn to c3. Black develops with knight to f6. We strike in the center immediately with pawn to d4. Black captures with pawn takes d4, and we recapture it with the ci pawn. If black checks the king with the bishop, we block it with the knight. If black take the e4 pawn with the knight, we ignore the threat and castle. Black exchanges pieces with bishop takes c3, and we recapture it with the pawn. Now comes the trap. Black sees another free pawn and gets greedy with knight takes c3. This is a blunder. We punish them with queen to h1, checking the king and threatening the knight. Black blocks with queen to a7, and we capture the knight with the queen. And we are up in material. Trap number 6 is the Evans gambit fork. Frequency: 40, damage 78, risk high, elo range below 1500. We start with the Italian game. e4, e5, knight to f3, knight to c6, and bishop to c4. Black plays bishop to c5. Now we play the aggressive Evans gambit. Pawn to b4. Black accepts the gambit with bishop takes b4. We kick the bishop with pawn to c3. The bishop retreats to c5. We strike the center with pawn to d4. Black takes, and we castle. Here is the trap. Black gets greedy and takes the second pawn with pawn takes c3. This opens the door for a tactical shot. We sacrifice the bishop. The king takes the bishop. We immediately follow up with queen to d5 check. This is a double attack. We are checking the king and attacking the loose bishop on c5. The king retreats and we capture the bishop with queen takes c5. We have regained our piece and black's king is exposed. If black plays d6, we simply capture the remaining pawn on c3. We have a strong center and a safer king. Trap number 7 is the Evans gambit assault. Frequency 35, damage 90, risk high, elo range below 1400. We start again with the Evans gambit. e4, e5, knight to f3, knight to c6, bishop to c4, and pawn to b4. Black captures with bishop takes b4, and we attack with pawn to c3. This time, black plays the safer retreat, bishop to a7. We continue our plan and strike with pawn to d4. Black captures with pawn takes d4. Now, instead of castling, we play the aggressive queen to b3. We are attacking the weak f7 pawn. Black often panics and plays knight to h6 to defend it. This is a blunder. We remove the defender immediately with bishop takes h6. Black is forced to recapture with pawn takes h6. Now, f7 is undefended. We capture with bishop takes fi7 check. The king must move to f8. We retreat the bishop to h5. This is a deadly move. We are threatening checkmate on f7 with the queen. Black is forced to stop the mate by blocking with pawn to d5. We simply capture with pawn takes d4. Black's king is exposed, their pawn structure is ruined, and we have a crushing attack. Trap number 8 is the fishing pole trap. Frequency 25, damage 99, risk high, elo range 1000 to 1600. We start with the quiet Italian game. e4, a5, knight to f3, knight to c6, bishop to c4, and bishop to c5. White castles, and we play pawn to d6. White plays pawn to d3, and we develop with knight to f6. White pins our knight with bishop to g5. We challenge the bishop immediately with pawn to h6. White retreats to h4. Now we set the trap. We play the aggressive pawn to g5, forcing the bishop back to g3. We ignore safety and push pawn to h5. If white gets greedy and captures with knight takes g5, they are in trouble. We trap their bishop with pawn to h4. White tries to counterattack by forking our queen, and rook with knight takes f7. We calmly move the queen to a7. White captures our rook with knight takes h8, thinking they are winning. We capture the bishop with pawn takes g3. White captures back with pawn takes g3, opening the h-file. We bring the queen to h7, eyeing the checkmate. White tries to save the knight with knight to f7. We play knight to g4, threatening unavoidable mate on h2 or h1. White is forced to sacrifice their queen to stop the mate. We capture with bishop takes g4, and we are completely winning. And finally, trap number 10 is the king hunt. Frequency 20, damage 99, risk high, elo range below 1300. This starts just like the fishing pole trap. e4, e5, knight to f3, knight to c6, bishop to c4, and bishop to c5. We reach the same setup. White castles, pins our knight, and we aggressively push pawns with h6, g5, and h5. This time, white tries to stop us by playing pawn to h4. We ignore it and develop our bishop to g4, pinning their knight. White captures our pawn with g5. We push forward with pawn to h4. The bishop retreats to h2, and we push again. Pawn to h3. White pawn takes h3. We capture with the rook. The h-file is now open. White defends with knight to d2. We pile on the pressure, knight to d4. White moves the king to g2 to defend. We crash through with knight takes f3. White recaptures with knight takes f3. We capture with bishop takes f3 check. If white captures our rook with king takes h3, it is forced mate. We bring the queen into the attack. Queen to d7 check. White tries to block with bishop to a6. We capture with queen, takes a 6 check. The king is forced to h4, and we finish the hunt with queen to g4. Checkmate. So those were the 10 Italian opening traps you need to know. And that's it for the video. I really put a lot of effort into this video, so if you want to help a small channel like me, please subscribe and like the video. See you next week, nerd.